Welcome back to another edition of the Face Off, and joining me from Winnipeg is the Comish.
Hello.
All right. Well, today we are going to tackle another question. It's more general. It's the question for the week is: are professional sports athletes treated like garbage? And we're going to have the Commish do something a little different. He's going to start off because he's going to take the affirmative. He thinks so. All right, Commish, let's go.
Well, I'll tell you what, this week I'm annoyed. I'm very upset at the way my Blue Bombers have treated one of their longtime players, Abi Khan. He was an 8-year veteran on the offensive line, and he was, what I will say, is forced into retirement. He had a relatively successful season last year, despite suffering from Crohn's disease. And then this year, with training camp about to start, the Bombers decided to cut him. Well, decided to say, you're going to retire. So he had an emotional speech, retired, and was crying and all that jazz. But you could tell underneath he did not want to retire. And he wasn't afforded the opportunity to join another team because it's too late now for a veteran of his stature to catch on with a CFL team. They should have done it in January or right after the Grey Cup. They should have known if he was able to make the team. And they let him lie in the weeds way too long. And that's disrespectful. And that's how sports franchises treat their veteran players. And I can't stand for that.
All right. Well, I see you're passionate. And in that case, there's that one case that I'll agree on that one case. But on a general rule, I'm going to have to disagree with you. And I hope you'll listen to me out. I got a few examples, and just a few because it happens every year, every day with professional athletes. I don't know about the CFL as much. Of course, living in the States, I follow the four major sports more than I do the Bombers and the CFL. But here we go, okay? I don't think that players, and we're talking the four major sports here, being paid millions of dollars because they can play with a ball or a puck, makes them being treated like garbage. You might think so, but just recent examples of Lamar Odom acting like a crybaby and not wanting to come to play. We have Dwight Howard. Is he in or is he out on a daily basis? Here's a guy being paid millions. He's a franchise player and he's a crybaby. We have Fisher, who was traded to Houston but would not report to the team. And then he forced Houston to trade him. This is a veteran player who was acting less than a baby, a complete jerk, didn't report to his team. I don't think that makes the team bad. That makes the player. Players are now wanting management to make the decisions with them. An example is Drew Brees. Not only wants his team to inform him on every play, but he wants the NFL apparently to inform him on their decisions. We have start teams during the draft telling their teams who to draft and who not to draft, and being upset if their teams are going to draft a player in their position.
Stop it right there.
I don't think that's garbage. I think the players are garbage.
You're talking about a totally different topic than me.
I'm talking about players being treated like garbage.
No, they don't deserve to be cut the way and treated like pieces of meat just because maybe don't want to play for a certain team or maybe they want a better contract. It's got to be a two-way street, and their livelihood is at risk. Their careers, I believe NFL players on average are 2.5 years at the most, so they got to make the most out of their careers. I'm talking about when you have a veteran and they've played their hearts out, put their bodies on the line for you. I'm talking about giving them a fair shake.
I disagree for this reason. There's a few cases you can give me, but the vast majority every year of teams that have been loyal to their players, and then their players come into their option year or before. An example was Gaborik with Minnesota Wild, who was their star player, and he was injured all the time, and he did not want to re-sign, and he ends up with the New York Rangers. He didn't give his team an option to re-sign him. These teams are trying to protect themselves and their assets. Their team. They're trying to protect their team and trying to make them a winner. And for the most part, we have in this generation players who are crybabies. They feel entitled. They're not loyal to their teams, and their teams react. If their teams get to the point where they feel, is he or isn't he part of the team, could he or could he not play, they're going to err on the side of caution and they're going to dump their ass because they know in the end game that player will dump them.
I'm talking about. I'm not suggesting that they should be loyal at all costs. I'm suggesting if you know he's not in your plans, let him know before the training camp starts. Don't tell him 2 weeks before training camp starts that he's not going to play for your team. Give him an option to find another team. So the examples you've cited are of guys that probably aren't loyal to their team and deserve to.
The Minnesota Vikings waited till the last moment, declared that he was going to have surgery, which made him ineligible for the season. All right? They ended up having to trade him. They couldn't negotiate a salary. That's an example of a player screwing with a team. Now, everybody likes to say Eli Manning's this great quarterback for the Giants, but if you remember, I believe he turned down the Chargers who drafted him. He would not play. He forced them to trade him. Remember, Eric Lindros was a star of his draft year. He refused to play with the Quebec Nordique. You remember that? That blockbuster trade with the Flyers? So, I just don't think you can say that they're treated like garbage.
Sportmentary. Once again, I'm right, you're wrong. You're citing examples of guys that probably are spoiled brats that deserve to be cut. I'm talking about veterans. I'm talking about guys that have laid it on the line. Abi Khan is one of them. And
example, Mr. Comish, and I've cited umpteen. What I'm saying is, you are the one example of a guy that probably should have been treated better, does not have a general case of players being treated like garbage. And I can cite you probably 100-to-1 cases where the players are mistreating the league and their teams versus the one player that might be mistreated by their team. There's no comparison there. And I'm going to end off now because, I got to go and get some rest. You really got me riled up. It's time to go. We'll just have to disagree on this one again. And thanks for joining us, Comish.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm shocked that you're riled up.
All right. Well, anyway, anybody who wants to vote for this face-off, please log on to Sportmentary.com, and Sportmentary is Sportmentary, and that's .com. Go to the face-off tab and vote for this week's face-off. We look forward to seeing you next week. Ciao.
Goodbye.